Welcome to Sip That Coffee, where casual conversations flow and real talk happens. We keep it real, diving into authenticity, growth, and all the unpredictable moments life throws our way. Whether you're here for thought-provoking chats, a little encouragement, or just some good company, grab your coffee or whatever it is that keeps you going, and let's get into it.
You ever go through something so uncomfortable, so painful that you start wondering if growth is even worth it? Like maybe staying the same wasn't so bad after all? Yeah, I've been there more times than I can count. Growth isn't pretty, it's messy, it's uncomfortable. It'll have you questioning everything you thought you knew about yourself. And honestly, sometimes it straight up hurts. But here's what I've learned. Just because something is painful doesn't mean it's bad. In fact, the most painful seasons of my life have been the ones that changed me in the best ways. And today, we're going to talk about why growth hurts so much, but why it's always worth it in the end. Hi, everybody. It's Hannah. I'm solo again today. Unfortunately, I'm going to be solo for a while. My absolutely amazing co-host, Candy, has had to move on to some other things, circumstances that we weren't expecting as we started this process. However, I absolutely adore her, and I am so glad that she is putting herself first in all of these things that she's moving forward with. So in the meantime, just stuck with me, so hopefully I don't bore you to death with solo conversation. And hopefully we'll have either some guests along the way or find a new co-host. But anyways, we'll get into the topic of growth. It's crazy. I've done so much of it lately. The last 4.5 years specifically, and I'm going to get more comfortable. Hang on. Ah, that's better. So, mind me as I'm moving here. So, I have started my growth journey, an extreme growth journey that is about 4.5, 5 years ago. Prior to that, it was small things, and small things matter, but I really didn't dig into that until after a divorce. And I won't get into the details of that only because I choose not to speak on it most of the time unless it's going to help someone else. And maybe, just maybe in the future, I'll have a bigger story time for that topic, but I don't feel like it's the time just yet. So that divorce happens. And for me, I did not want to move on in my life without hammering out and working on the things that I knew I needed to change, or so I thought I knew. Because when you start this growth and you start healing, there's lots of things that come up that you don't even realize is a problem. And it gets a little bit hectic and weird at first because like I mentioned, you kind of start to feel like you're losing every aspect of yourself. But the reality of it is you're actually becoming who you were always meant to be in the first place. That's the best way I can explain it. Because so much of me had been kind of hidden and buried, and I'm still unburying things. And I've had some new things come into my life here recently, and it's interesting because I went with my full, genuine, authentic self. I didn't try to play a role, and it's not that playing roles are bad because I think there's in certain aspects that we do kind of have to mold ourselves a little bit depending on the situation. But there's a big difference between that and just changing who you are to try to get someone to accept you and approve of you. I didn't do that this time. I just went in full force, all me, and it worked. So I'm excited about that. We'll see where that opportunity goes. So talking a little bit as to why growth hurts, it's one of those things like the biggest thing is we don't like letting go of our comfort. We kind of get into that place like this feels good, you know, like our little squishy that we're holding on to and we don't want to let go of. And we cling to it for dear life because the uncertainty always brings fear. But I can tell you from personal experience when we step over that fear that technically we put there ourselves, there's amazing things on the other side of it. Letting go of that comfort zone or stepping out of it is probably the hardest part about any growth journey or healing journey. Oh, you have to get what's that quote? Let me see. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I don't know if you guys have heard that quote before, and I've heard it many times, and it is the truth. If you're not feeling a sense of discomfort in this process, you're probably still holding on to a little bit of too much and things that you need to let go. And sometimes that includes losing people along the way. That's the sucky part. I have lost quite a few people along the way in this journey, and I'm still losing people along the way. And I've learned to let go in a simpler way and be at peace with it. Like, not everyone has to stay. Not everyone is capable of staying. And we have to realize that as an individuals, we can serve other people, we can comfort other people, we can be in that position in and of ourselves, but know at the same time not to have those expectations of that person's just going to stay the whole entire time. And when you do that, it gets a little bit easier of learning how to trust people. And by me doing that, by me realizing that some people don't stay and not setting expectations of what that person might give me in return, I've actually gained some of the most awesome friends that I can have. They're few and far between, but I've gained them and I appreciate them. I'm attracting people that meet who I am instead of trying to fit in with everyone else or trying to collect people. How many people are in your life does not show your value. And that is part of growth. And maybe you were like that when you were younger. Maybe you're still like that as an adult. Sometimes we think that, oh, I've got to have a certain number of people in my life or I'm not a good person or, I'm not worth love or I'm not worthy of being liked or nobody wants to spend time with me. And sometimes, that's a moment that you can also reflect on your own attitude and your own actions because I am not above saying there's been times in my life where I wouldn't blame anybody if they weren't around me. We can put off bad energy sometimes and don't expect people to remain if you're not holding yourself accountable for your own actions. And so that's the key point too, is if you feel like everybody's walking away, evaluate yourself. That's another area of growth. That's easier said than done sometimes. A lot of people don't want to admit when they're wrong. A lot of people don't want to admit they actually have a problem. And that's the truth of the matter. And that's the hard truth. There's a lot of hard truths that we have to face and we have to confront things that we've ignored for years in ourselves, that we've ignored that has happened to us. A lot of people don't grieve things that they've lost. They just kind of ignore it and shove it and put it away. They ignore things that they've been through and say that they're fine. And all I know from that perspective and what I've witnessed around me, not so much myself, is that the more that you set that stuff aside, the more that you put it in and shove it down and keep shoving and keep shoving and keep shoving, most of the time, bitterness and anger grows. And those two things will literally suck the life out of you. It causes so much toxicity in all areas of your life. You're not even peaceful within yourself. You don't even like yourself when you're holding on to bitterness and anger. And you walk around blaming other people for everything that's going on in your life. And honestly, there was a point in my life that it was like that too. And I'm thankful that I did not get to the extent that I have witnessed some people get with that. But when I look back on myself, when I was in that place of my life where it was everyone else's fault that I felt the way that I felt, it was everyone else's job to fix the insecurities that I had within myself. It was everyone else's job to do things to make me happy. It was like, why me? Why is everybody treating me like this? And I'm not saying that everybody in my life treated me the way that they should, because they didn't. But there comes a point in our life that we have to grow up and we have to realize that we are adults and we get to make the choices on how we behave and how we react and the things that happen in our life now and what control we allow those things to have over us, whether it's past or present. And the more that you can walk through your life with the understanding that not everything is against you, that a lot of things that happen are for you if you choose to look at it that way and choose to see the blessing and the lesson within everything that you face. Because you can say that in good times and in hard times, and I can truthfully and honestly say that. The more that you change your perspective and view on what you're going through at that moment, the easier that those things get. And along this road of shifting and changing your perspective and changing your mindset and changing of the people that are around you, all of the change, it can honestly feel like you're turned upside down and you don't even know who you are anymore. And that is a really scary place to be. It's extremely emotional. It's scary in the standpoint like you don't know which direction you're supposed to go next. You feel like your whole entire foundation has been knocked down. However, the beauty that I can say about your entire foundation being busted apart is God builds it back stronger than it ever has been before, and you feel good to stand on it. And you don't feel like it's wobbly, and you're not afraid that it's just going to come crumbling down at any moment with one little thing that happens next. So if you're like me or how I used to be, I'm not this way now, but like if you're the type of person who's just waiting for the next shoe to drop, waiting for that next thing to fall on the pile that just completely makes you crumble because you're anticipating that, that's a rough place to be. And it's easier when you can know your foundation is strong so that when those things do happen to hit the foundation, because life isn't perfect and life can be hectic, you're not going to completely fall apart. You might have your moments where you feel like you are, or things get chaotic in your head, or you feel sick for a while, or you feel like mentally you're straining and struggling. And I've had a few months of those myself here recently. Or maybe you have a setback. Like my setback right now is my weight loss journey. I'm irritated, but I know that I can move through that. And I think that's the beautiful part about growing is that when you get a better foundation, it's a lot easier to keep moving forward rather than just accepting everything that falls on top of you, because you don't have to accept everything. You kind of have to like surrender to it in the sense like saying, okay, this is where I'm at right now, and this is what I have to face in this moment. I can face this situation. I can get through this and then keep moving on to the next thing. Like, we can't always change every single thing that comes along, but we can change how we handle it. And I think I've said that multiple times. I even said that in the last episode that we get to choose how we react to something. And that's all part of growth as well. So, I want to talk a little bit about why growth is worth it. So not only do you have the stronger foundation, but you have a stronger sense of self. Like, each time you push through, you start to look at yourself like, oh man, that's amazing. Look, I've gone from way over here to this spot. And because you were here and now you're here, that you can keep going, that you can reach all of those other goals that you have, that you can get through anything that you're faced with, no matter what it is. And you having that understanding. And for me personally, a lot of my stronger sense of self, of course, is the strength that comes through my personal relationship with God. And, he is my strength in those moments where I don't have it, but he's within me. So I do have it. So like, because he dwells in me, I have the strength to get through those things. So technically it is self, even though it's him within me. But anyhow, you know what I'm saying there. But you do get this idea of like, okay, yes, I can keep moving forward, but you're even weaker when you haven't taken the time to change those things within you that are holding you back, that have weakened you. And God is an amazing healer. The time that I spent with him right after my divorce, really, really ripped what I would describe as old rotten roots out of me, things that I didn't even recognize. And going through that process is what has made me a stronger individual. And that's what I highly recommend anyone do, is sit with him and have him guide you through this process in growth, and help you navigate the things that you need to change and to understand yourself better, because guess what? He understands you better than you understand yourself. And I can't tell you how many times in my conversations with him, he kindly likes to point out how stubborn I can be. However, my stubbornness is also a strength when it is used appropriately. And another part that is absolutely worth growing, and the process of all the chaos that it brings, is that you get freedom from the wrong things. So those things that are eating you alive, that you're irritated with, or even the things that you're irritated with about yourself that you've tried over and over and over and over to try and change, and it's not working, but keep going and keep trying to change them, because I promise you that one day they will change if you are intentional about your growth. If you go into it with the idea that nothing's ever going to change, or you go into it with the idea that you hate yourself, that doesn't work either. Love is gentle and love is gracious. So be gentle and gracious with yourself in this process, and you'll, learn to stop holding on to people and habits and beliefs that aren't working for you. That's a big one. That's a really big one, because I've spent a good majority of my life trying to keep myself molded into this box of everyone else around me. And I have come to realize I'm not everyone else. I can't be everyone else. The Lord created me in the way that He created me. I want to be who He expects me to be, absolutely. But when you're blessed like I am with a different personality, and that's all I'm going to get into. Lucky I'm finding my tribe that kind of matches my vibe, so no complaints there. But it gets exhausting trying to fit into everybody else's mold that they may have for you, or think that you should be in order to be successful or to accomplish things in life. I've struggled my whole life with that. And as I've let go of those things, it has been so peaceful, and I have found things that I love, and I'm getting put into positions that I never thought that I would be in. And it's amazing. It's been a long, slow road, and I'm still snailing along. However, it is moving forward. But that only happened because I was willing to finally let go of what I thought I needed to hold on to, because I was afraid of what might not come along. And that's the biggest thing. We fear losing what we have and never getting anything else back. I promise you that is not true. When you start dropping the things that aren't meant for you, are meant to be yours, you have room to hold what belongs to you. And that's the hugest and most best part about growth, is making room for what is meant for you. I see too many people walking around this world miserable because they're not willing to let go of what they have, because they're afraid that they'll lose everything. You might for a while, but it will return to you, and it's worth it. It's always worth it. Now, with that being said, I'm not telling you to run away from your family. I just want to make that clear before somebody gets on here and is like, "Oh, did you hear her? She gave me permission to just walk away from everyone and everything. I don't have to care about these people anymore." That is not what I said. You know what I'm talking about. In your heart, you know what things I'm referring to, even if I'm not saying them, the things that you need to let go of. And that's including the comforts that you might be using. And I'm guilty of that in the past as well. Food was my best friend. For some of you, that might be alcohol. For some of you, that might be something stronger. But if that's your comfort, that's holding you back. And that's the brutal honesty. Those things that you find, and I will even go as far as say relationships. I'm not talking about a committed marriage, but I am talking about the types of individuals or the ones that are bouncing from person to person, from bed to bed. That's not helping either. Uh, that is an area in your life that you need to reflect on as well. And I'm being blunt, and that's not a judgmental statement. What you do is your business with any of that I said. However, I know damage that it causes, and I know the damage to your peace and your heart and your mental health that it's causing. It's not helping. It probably feels good in the moment, but it's truly not helping. And that is just matter of fact. And you don't have to be a Christian to understand that there is actual scientific proof of those things. For those who need the scientific proof, you can research that for yourself, but it is true. Um, and without saying it, there's scientific proof of other things that you can view on the internet, and I'm insinuating what that might be. Most of you can figure that out for yourself. There's also scientific proof of the damage that it does. And a lot of people use that for comfort as well. But I feel like I can speak on that just because of where I used to be. And I know the bondage that all of those things hold you to. And those are bondages that need to be broke in order for you to grow and to move forward in your life. So start there if you have anything like that that you are stuck with. And if you need help getting out of those things, seek help. There's plenty of help. You can reach out to me. I may not be able to directly give you any guidance on that because there's some places that I will draw the line and boundaries on what I, can help a person through, but I can at least direct you in the right direction to go for those. Just throwing that out there, kind of sidetracked in this conversation, but I think it needed to be said. And the other amazing thing why growth is worth it is it opens doors for new opportunities. Like I mentioned, letting go, open hands. Now you're free to bring in new things when you're not stuck in the bondage of all the old things you've been carrying around. Those new things start showing up. Sometimes it takes a little while, but if you keep moving forward with where you're at, keep taking action each day and keep focused on growing, those new opportunities will definitely show up. And like, hey, I'm doing a podcast. Never in my life would I have thought that I'd actually be doing this. I mean, it's been a thought, that might cross my mind over the last few years, but I didn't think that I'd actually go through with it. And it's amazing. And I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. I hope I get more listeners. And I hope that I reach somebody who might need to hear the things that I have to say. And this is not something that I'm out to try to get a bunch of attention for. I'm just having fun because I like to talk and I like to share the thoughts that come to my mind of anything and whatever it may be. That episode is a little more serious, but that's okay. I have that side too, and I have a goofy side, so hopefully the goofiness will show up again at some point. But we're sticking to the serious conversation today. So those opportunities are interesting because you become somebody that you didn't even think that was possible. And it motivates you to keep going. So it's really good to be here. And I hope that someone else takes what I'm saying and starts their growth journey because it's so worth it. And I have a smile on my face, like a lot of times that like even smiling on this podcast while I'm recording, my cheeks are starting to hurt because I just get so excited about helping people see what's on the other side of where they're standing. And when they feel like they're in darkness and they can't get out, you can. There's a light right there. There's a stepping stone right in front of you. Just step forward. Just one little step. I used to think I had to have everything in place and be perfect and do everything all at one time. And it got overwhelming and then I never got anywhere. It's like a hamster wheel. You just keep going in circles over and over and over. And then I finally said, you know what? I'm going to took a deep breath. I'm going to take this one step at a time. I'm not going to force myself to try to change all these things at once. We're going to do one little thing And I did another little thing, and then I did another little thing, and all those little things just kept adding up. And sometimes those little things take longer than you want them to, but you'll get there. Bottom line, growth is not supposed to be easy. Because if you're not challenging yourself, you're not changing. And I have this little quote that I like to say all the time. If you're not growing, you're dying. Just like a plant. If a plant is not actively growing, because plants always grow, if they're not growing, they're starting to die. It's the same thing with us. If we are not actively and intentionally growing somewhere in our life, we are basically just accepting the fact that we're dying. Will we die one day? Yes, we know this. However, life is a lot better when you're actively participating in it. And part of that active participation is being intentional about your personal growth. And it could be small things. It doesn't have to be a big, huge, giant leap of something, but it can be something. And I guarantee you, you might even say, oh, I've done all this growing. I'm good. No. Talk to me long enough. I can probably find something that you could focus on in an area that you need to grow. And I think we all need to carry that mindset at all times, and how critical growing actually is, and how much better life becomes when we're constantly in the idea and the thought that we need to grow today. And you can look for ways to move forward and not be stagnant in your life. And there will be times that it feels painful, especially when you do get to some of the bigger topics of growth, and you're digging deeper into places that you've probably have hid away that you don't want to go into. As that pain comes, lean into the pain. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you lean into the pain and you process those feelings and you process those emotions, that you will move through it and it will get better. It's part of the process. And I promise you, when you're feeling like it's going backwards, it's not. Those emotional, I'm not even going to call them emotional lows, because that doesn't even describe it. Because I think we can have emotional highs and lows just general in life. But like, it might feel like somebody's literally got their foot on your head holding you to the ground. That's okay. Just lay there for a while and process the pressure that you're feeling. And if it's not something that you can do alone, seek help for that. Um, I've been able to go through a lot of this process on my own, and I say on my own, but I have, my faith and my prayers and Bible reading and things like that that helped me get through this. But not everybody can have that type of um situation. There's a lot of situations where you do need to seek someone else to kind of walk you through those things. And so please do that. Never feel like you have to do these things by yourself. Seeking help does not make you weak. And so if you've got to do that, do that. Healing does not make you weak. All of these crazy emotions do not mean that you're weak. It just means that you have to go through this process, and you are very strong by facing them. I typically find weakness in individuals who refuse to face those things and change them. To me, that's weakness. And because they're damaging themselves, and they tend to continue damaging people around them as well. And that's just a matter of fact from experience of people that I've been around in my life. And so I want to throw a question out to you as I'm coming to kind of an end with this. I want you to share with me something that you might be facing right now that's uncomfortable. I want to hear your stories. So please reach out to me. There's various ways that you can do that. If you go to sipbycoffee.com, my page is listed there, and so the contact that way. I believe we have the podcast email is listed there as well. So I want to know something you might be facing right now that's very uncomfortable to you, and you're not quite sure maybe how to get through it. And kind of share how you feel like it might be a sign of growth. And maybe this is something that's been brought to your attention for you to move through rather than hiding from it? I definitely want to hear your thoughts because I want to know, you know, what each individual that's listening to this might be getting from the things I'm saying, or maybe you just need, a little bit of guidance and some direction because you're struggling with what to do next. But I love hearing from people. Even if I don't have the answers, I love to listen and have people share with me things that they're going through. So please feel free to reach out. This world is a little chaotic right now, so I know a lot of people are going through a lot of things they weren't anticipating to go through, and it can be very scary. But my encouragement to everyone listening is that if you continue to focus on yourself and your community and your little family world, if you have a family and your friends near you, that the world feels a little less chaotic and it feels a little more peaceful, even if you're going through some hard moments. And there's something about making the world smaller in that way that everything feels a little less overwhelming. And if you find yourself overwhelmed, I also encourage you to step back a little bit from social media. I'm not against it, obviously, because I use it myself. But sometimes taking in as much information as humans do these days can actually hinder your growth and hinder your healing because you're hearing everything that's going on. And when you're already having struggles with, you know, anxiety and stress and other things that you're dealing with, a lot of times that will add to it. So I'm not being bossy, but I am kind of being bossy to tell you what to do because I wish somebody would have pointed those things out to me when I was going through the things that I was going through. And it took me the hard way to find out what I needed to let go of in order to move forward. So that's all I'm going to say. If you hung in here this long, I love everybody that listens and I appreciate feedback as well. So I will catch you next week.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Sip by Coffee. If you made it this far, congrats. You have an impressive attention span. If something resonated with you, let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep growing, keep being real, and try not to cause too much chaos, or at least make it entertaining.